You in this battle, man, I'll soon be dead. I'll glue your face to my dick so I can fuck with your head. I got metaphors coming through my pores. You probably never been in a battle before, so I hope you realize your mistake. There ain't no party, got some candles, this will be a piece of cake.
Folks, welcome to the Before Hours podcast, an internet radio phenomenon hosted by an occasional morning person. I ask the most interesting people I know about their sleep, their routine, life, love, stress, and setbacks. You could email us at thebeforehourspodcast.com. That's not right. The Before Hours Podcast at gmail.com. The Before Hours Podcast doesn't have a website right now, but if you want to talk to me, I'm at BobbySheenLOL.com or on Instagram, BobbySheenLOL. LOL, because you know I bring the laughter. But for now, guys, this is no laughing matter. Actually, it is, because not only is he a good friend, but he's also a comedian. And the two of us gallivanted recently along the South, East, and the Midwest. Welcome back to the podcast. First, third-time guest. Longest intro I've ever done. But he's a great guy. I love him. He specifically made sure to wear a different outfit this time because he knows he's a fashion icon. And he just got a new haircut, and I think he looks so nice. This is by far the longest intro I've ever done. It's almost disrespectful how long I'm going on and on. Like the guests are like, okay, the bit is overstayed its welcome. Can you please introduce the guest? And guys, I'm going to introduce the guest because he's amazing. Welcome back to the podcast. The one, the only, one of my best friends, and I'm happy to have him in my life. Ben Miller. What's going on, Ben?
Oh, wow. And that's our time for the recording session, actually.
Yeah, we went a little long, so we're going to do plugs right now. Ben, where can the people find you? No, man, I'm joking around. I like to engage in a bit of levity when we're doing these little podcast recordings, but I'm really glad you and I were able to sit down and talk again.
Absolutely. It was impressive how you made something that was a riff seem like you were reading it off of a teleprompter. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It was very stiff and choppy.
Oh, yes, because I like when I... Actually, a previous podcast guest said that he thinks it's funny that I look into the camera from time to time, but I do like to break the fourth wall. I like to consider myself the Jim Halpert of the podcast world.
Oh, this is The Office.
This is The Office. You know, yeah.
Who are you looking at, Bobby? If I didn't know that this was filmed.
Yeah.
Like we're just casually sitting down in front of microphones like we always do.
Yeah. Well, that's, because we're friends, quote unquote. You know what I mean? But really, it's just for content, dude. So anytime you and I are talking and the mics aren't near us, ready to roll, it's like, it's diminished returns, right? Because then what is it? Like, forming a bond for which can never be broken, ugh, no, I don't want that.
That would be so upsetting if every conversation we had, you're like, diminish returns right now, Ben. Diminish returns. What value is this? We need to be maximizing productivity at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always think because in New York, sometimes if you're a man that dates women, you might be on a date with a woman that's like very business, like she's business oriented. And it does sometimes feel like that. Like she's so type A, and I'm sure women experience this dating men too. They're so type A that it almost feels like they can't relax. And that's the number one prerequisite to a first date, I think, is you have to be a little relaxed.
You mean she's like interviewing you like it's a job?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. She's like, okay, can I please see your references? If you could just let me know your measurements real quick, that would be great. And I'm like, how about let's vibe. Let's vibe like, first.
Can my mom be a reference?
Yeah. No, I don't think I'd ever let my mom look at my dating profile. That would be too weird. But who knows? Maybe other people are different. But life is good, man. I really can't complain. I mean, I guess I could, but who would listen?
Have you done that on the podcast before? Do people know I could, but who would listen?
Oh, I don't know.
Because for those of you that don't know Bobby in real life, he does that all the time. Mm-hmm. And some people think it's funny, but some people haven't heard that and they think he's being really earnest about it.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
But Bobby, if something's going, please, you can tell me. Mm-hmm. And Bobby's like, no, not unless the mics are on.
Yeah.
Diminished returns.
Diminished returns, dude. Yeah, that's going to be the name of the episode.
Yeah.
Unless I forget. Then it's going to be Ben Miller Returns Part 2. So it's your third time on the podcast. The second time you were on the podcast, I said Ben Miller Returns.
Yeah.
So Ben Miller Returns Part 2 would be kind of a funny little inside joke.
Are we just going to be doing meta commentary this entire
So, yeah, the name of the game is meta commentary, dude. it's interesting because you and I were on
See,
tour.
it used to be called Facebook commentary, but now it's called meta commentary.
Ooh,
Is that topical?
That's a
Is
good
that
one. Maxim, can you clip that? He's clipping it now. We're good. Hashtag meta, hashtag Facebook, hashtag Mark Zuckerberg. And that not just because I look like him, but because he's referenced in a way. So we were on tour, Ben. Let's tell the people about tour.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I've only been on 2 tours in my life, and they were both with you.
Oh, wow.
I've been opening for you, you know, and obviously, like, it's mostly me carrying your bags and making sure that, like, you know, the help, as you call them, doesn't look you directly in the eye. But you do let me do what you describe as my little comedy skits before you take the stage. And I'm forever appreciative of it, man.
Yeah, of course. I tell you that you'd be nothing without me.
And I feel it. I feel it in my bones.
Yeah, it's been a delightful time. Do we want to talk about the fun things that we saw? Do you want to tell them about how in 1 week we destroyed 2 cars?
Dude, you know what was ironic? Because people are asking me how the shows work. Because we were in the Southeast and the Midwest. Southeast first week, Midwest second week.
Yeah.
And all the shows, I know everybody says this, but they were like phenomenal.
Yeah, they were really, really fun.
We, like, the crowds that came out, they were ready to party. None of these slack-jawed idiots that we have to perform in front of in New York all the time that are like a toxic mixture of I actually don't know how to read, or that's very problematic. Those are the 2 types of comedy audiences you could get.
Who in New York is I don't know how to read? Are you performing at a preschool?
Yes. Well, I used to. I'm not allowed back anymore. But yeah, I don't know. So the crowds were good. Yes. But if you and I didn't destroy not 1 but 2 cars, it would have been a 5-star trip.
Yeah, we were destroying on and off stage.
I don't remember if I told you off mic, but I found out what was wrong with the car.
Yeah, what happened?
Okay, so let's work backwards for the
right.
listeners. So we performed. First of all, we performed at it's funny you mentioned a preschool, because we did actually do PG-13 comedy for a high school. So Ben is the Operation Ivy of comedians. And I know you don't understand that reference, but Operation Ivy was like a punk band in the late 80s, early 90s, and they were famous for performing anywhere. So any hole in the wall, they would perform. And that was cool.
Any glory hole.
Any glory hole, dude. Yeah. So yeah, Ben reached out, I think. No, they reached out to you.
Yeah. It was just like a local Chicago high school science club teacher reached out and was like, perform for my students. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was like, what if I brought my friend so it's less awkward? And he's like, yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
And you very generously went up cold to a large cafeteria of politely disinterested high school students.
Yeah, dude. I was like, hello, fellow kids. At one point I was like, does anyone here like music?
Yeah. And then when my friend said Nirvana, and you're like, and
Radiohead,
I apologize. And you're like, do you even know any Radiohead songs? That's what you did. You just gay-kept Radiohead for this teenager.
Yeah. Well, because I was like, what's your favorite Radiohead song? And she froze. So I'm like, how about Creep? Which is how I feel performing in front of high school kids. So that was a fun show. We're leaving that show. You and I are, well, we're not talking because you want me to be eyes on the road 10 and 2 while you do your various business calls. But during that, I all of a sudden on the highway cannot accelerate. And I cannot emphasize how problematic that is. All of a sudden I can't go over 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's really anti-woke.
It's and okay, for context, it's my mom's 2017 Hyundai that just got a new engine. So I was like, what the hell is the problem? So I pull over the side of the road. I call my dad because he's a real man that knows how cars work.
And then Bobby realizes, my foot just isn't reaching the pedal. That's why it's not accelerating.
This is short king discrimination and I will not stand for it, Hyundai. Yeah. So, but I readjusted myself in the seat. I had my my booster thing in front of me. So Even though that is the weirdest feeling, by the way, literally pedal to the metal and the car's not moving. So I'm like, all right, this is a problem. So I pull over to the side of the highway and I call my dad, and my dad's like, what's the problem? And I'm like, well, I can't accelerate. And also the check engine light is not only on, but it's blinking. And he was like, that is very bad news. So we put the hazards on. Now I could only go like 35 miles an hour, and everybody on the highway was not happy with us. But we put the hazards on. We're driving in the right lane. Thank goodness there's an auto body. Well, first we go to the AutoZone.
AutoZone, yeah, which I think neither of us had ever been.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't know the premise of AutoZone is no one there is a mechanic and you're not a mechanic. And they're like, can you fix your car? And you're like, no, that's why we're here, actually.
Hey, dude. Okay. So there's this lady, and by the way, like thickest Chicago accent. Like I just could not understand what I thought she was doing a bit. Sometimes you meet somebody and they talk in such a way where we're like, come on, that's not your voice, you know? And so she's like, here's the instructions on how to run diagnostics on your car. And so we go, you and I, okay, I would have felt silly if I was by myself, but I had you with me, a man of science. And we looked at the bottom of the car where there's 1,000 different plugs.
Yeah.
And she's like, finally, we're like, well, listen, we can't figure out which plug it is. And she comes out and she's like, obviously it's this one right here. And I'm like, how was I supposed to know that? She just has like no theory of mind where she's like, well, I look at this hole all the time. So obviously you must look at the same. I didn't mean this to sound like a double entendre.
Bobby has no experience looking at holes.
No.
Does not know where to plug it.
I have no idea where to.
He usually asks the manager for help.
Yeah. So she comes out, she runs like there's a code, right? So the little machine tells you, because it's all cars are computerized now, right? So the car gives you a code. So we all walk back into the AutoZone and she types in the code in the computer, and the computer basically goes, I don't know. So the computer goes, I don't know. And she's trying to figure it out. Oh, by the way, singing R&B songs at full volume, which is like, I don't know. I think you and I did a pretty good job of like not freaking out. You know what I mean? But that wasn't the customer service I think either of us deserved, you know?
But she was having a good time, though.
She was having fun. Yeah. And the whole time I'm like riffing with her, hoping that like, you know, whenever you're in a customer service situation in which they have all the power, I always try to be, you know what I mean? Because it's like she could at any point be like, fuck you. Get out. It's not, and the stakes are high. My car doesn't work. I don't know how to fix it.
Oh, it's not even your car. It's your mom's car.
It's my mom's car, dude.
She's trusted her baby boy with her precious vehicle. And in 7 days, you've already ruined it.
I'm sorry, mama. I never meant to hurt the car. I never meant to blow the engine. But tonight I'm calling the Hyundai dealership.
Is this a song?
It is now. But yeah, I don't know. So we took it. Okay, long story short, you guys, we took because AutoZone's like, we don't know what's happening.
Yeah, we like watch her typing it into Google, which I feel like that's as bad as like watching like a doctor type in your symptoms into WebMD.
Right.
Like, okay, great. You don't actually have any training. There's nothing that's going to get done here.
And she's like, well, she's like, I could talk to my coworker. And the coworker just the coworker looked in our direction in a way that I was like, there's no way he wants to help us. You know what I mean? So I'm like, where's the nearest Hyundai? Where's the nearest mechanic shop? And they were like, it's down the road. It might still be open. And we're like, thank Christ. Let's just go there. So again, 35 miles an hour on the right lane with my hazards on. I go to this auto parts store, and the guy, thank Christ, just had a look on his face like, I would like to help you.
Yeah, and every day we thank Christ for this.
Ben was Jewish before the tour, but let's just say he after the 2 car experiences, he lets Jesus take the wheel. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
More responsible than Bobby at the wheels.
So the guy was like, we'll run diagnostics in the morning. He runs diagnostics in the morning. He was like, yep, it's fucked up. Your engine's fucked up. We need to tow it to the Hyundai dealership. And I'm like, God damn it. We tow it to the Hyundai dealership. The Hyundai dealership's like, yep, we'll look at it when we want to. And I was like, can I have a loaner car? And they were like, no. And I was like, please? And they were like, well, we don't know exactly what's wrong with the engine. And until we look at the engine, we don't know if what's wrong with it is covered by your warranty. And you can only have a loaner car if it's covered by the warranty. And I took a deep breath and I said, okay. And took Ubers for the rest of the trip until Ben rented a car.
Yeah, in Madison,
Mm-hmm.
rented a car after the Madison show, picked you up in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Then we drove to some like Airbnb on a farm in Indiana.
Yeah.
That made no sense and was a bad decision.
I was almost bitten by a sheepdog. That was fun. So we went on the farm surrounded by sheep, and
Yep.
it's the middle of the night, and we're wondering which house to walk in. And this dog walks up to us, and the dog was like, this is what I've been training for. Because it's too dumb to know that we don't care about the sheep. We're not going to abduct the sheep. But I went to pet it, and it went, "Arr." And I'm like, dude, if I get bit at 1 o'clock in the morning because my car broke down and I'm at this farm, that makes no sense.
Yeah, you're gonna get some middle of nowhere Indiana rabies strain.
Dude, can you imagine?
You're just gonna pass away in this Airbnb.
Dude, that would be such a poetic way for me to die. He got bit by a dog at a weird Airbnb because his car broke down and he was trying to do comedy in the Midwest.
Yeah, and I was trying to save $20 by not booking a hotel.
Yeah.
Bobby had to die, unfortunately.
Yeah, but if you explain that to my parents, they're frugal people. They would understand. They're like, we are sad about our son, and you're like, listen, I've thought about it, and I'm going to donate $20 to the GoFundMe.
To the Memorial Bobby Relief Fund.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
For the Bitten by Stray Dog Charity Foundation.
And
you know, that happens when like, we shouldn't be making fun of this, but like when someone's like, you know, kid died and they're like, oh, we're going to make like a charity now out of it's just going to be some weird thing. I regret every part of this. Anyway.
I love that, dude. I was like, hold on, I'll stop talking. Ben has something important to say. And he was like,
yeah.
So I was gonna make this joke, but it's actually, now that I think about it, it's not that good.
Yeah, it is a little bit too mean. Anyway, so we do the show in Detroit.
We do the show in Detroit, dude, and it was the last show of the tour, and it went phenomenal. We had a nice time.
Yeah, here's how good Bobby did at the show. Is 2 women came in late. They didn't see his opening set. They just saw him come up at the end for like, we did like a joint Q&A, and afterwards messaged him being like, it was so hot, your riffs during the Q&A, let's go on a date.
Yeah.
And Bobby's like, sorry, I'm married to the road.
Sorry, my mom's car is still in the Hyundai dealership.
Yeah, and so being a loyal to the road boy, we hop in the car to go to a different Airbnb outside of Cleveland, and we're driving for maybe like 45 minutes.
It's like midnight, right?
Yeah. It's about midnight, and the tire pops.
Full on pops too.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, what was that? It's like, oh, we have to pull over right now.
Yeah. And so it's like the side of the road, there's like no shoulder. It's like very dark. And we don't know how to change a tire, but we figured that maybe if we could like get this car to like a gas station is a little bit more light, we could either try to like figure it out with some YouTube videos or like find like a real man at the gas station that would take pity on 2 little boys like us. So we try to get like a mile or so to the gas station, maybe like a quarter of a mile before the exit, like the tire just completely erupts where it's uncontrollable, and we just have to like pull over to the lack of shoulder. And
you know what was funny? When we pulled over the second time, we had less shoulder than we originally had. And it's if anyone's ever been on the side of the highway, even if because we were all the way to the right of the white line. Like we were I felt like we were fine, but every once in a while there'd be a tractor trailer that wouldn't change lanes and would maybe be driving a little too fast. Yeah. And the whole car shakes. You're like, oh, every time I was like, this could be it. This is how it ends. Like, I escaped the dog rabies, but now I get hit by a 4-wheeler or a tractor trailer rather.
Yeah. And for some reason I was like a little bit hesitant to just like call for help. Because I was like, it's gonna be more money, or I don't know. The rental cars companies can try to screw us or whatever. Eventually, Bobby convinced us to call 911, and whatever like local, like
Well, yeah,
Michigan.
I didn't call 911. I called the local police department,
Yeah, the local
which was closed.
Which so adorable. Like crime doesn't happen after 11 p.m.
It doesn't, dude.
We're a small town.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're getting murdered right now? Too bad.
Yeah, so we got the
All right,
voicemail. When we were gone, I was okay. So the next step was going to be, I hate, because I've been like an offender bender where I call the local police department. And they're like, you actually have to call 911. And to be instructed to call 911 for a non-emergency feels so weird. And when that happened to me, the first thing I said was, this is not an emergency, but I was told to call you.
And then they just hang up immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like police, fire, or ambulance. I'm like, none of the above. Administration, you know? So we actually did end up calling the rental company.
Yeah. And they're like, we'll send someone out to like change the tire. Because there's like a donut and like a jack and back. And so we wait maybe like an hour and a half by the side of the highway. Yeah, it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster. We're crying, we're laughing joyously, we're cuddling together for warmth.
Right, for warmth.
We're considering cannibalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually I
Dude, I would be screwed on that end.
Oh, because I have no meat on me?
Yeah.
You'd be like, fine, we'll just take my leg.
I'm eating my own leg instead of yours.
Like, what have I been working out for if not to have more muscle I can eat later?
But that actually doesn't, that's, you know how they say like venison isn't that good because it's all like, if you eat a wild animal, it's not as good as like a farm raised animal.
Yeah.
You know? So
you
neither
don't think
option
you've
is
been
very
domesticated by society?
Yeah.
You don't think that you're a caged man?
No, like a rat in a cage. I still have something. I forget the lyrics, but despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. You don't know music, Ben. I could have gotten away with it, but the listeners knew. Listeners knew I screwed up. So yeah, the guy comes.
Yeah, and the whole time I was very worried that he's just gonna be calling us a pussy while changing the tires.
See, this is okay, Ben. You and I have been friends for years.
Yeah,
almost for as long as I have been doing comedy, because that's how we met. Being New York City comedians, doing what New York City comedians do. But you learn new things about someone when you spend a lot of time with them, right?
Yeah.
And so what I learned about you is not to a pathological degree, but you're a little untrusting. You're a little like you said before, we were on the side of the highway and I'm like, we have to call the rental company for help. And your immediate thought was, they're going to screw us. They're going to, you know, first of all, no one's ever gotten a flat tire before. So they're going to be furious at us. They're going to be furious. And then they're going to wonder, rubbing their hands together.
Yeah.
How do I get more money out of these
I called them
poor
up and
boys?
Like, you did what to our car? We trusted you.
We trusted you.
Well,
and then you're like, well, I don't have any trust, so I don't know what that emotion is like.
Well, I also like turned down whatever like insurance because I got it through some like third part. Like I booked it through, I don't know, like Priceline or like Expedia or like one of these like online things. So I imagine what was going to happen is I was going to call them and they'd be like, will you turn down our insurance? And this is what you get.
This is what you get.
You're going to die on the side of the road.
I should say you're very I feel like you're a trusting friend. You're a trusting relative. But I think when there's not a relationship, you might think this person could screw me over, which is not bad. I don't think that's because I'm arguably oriented a little too far in the other direction where I'm like, people are basically good and things will work out.
Yeah.
You know? But sometimes people.
Yeah, like I just need to keep sending her money so she can come to America. We're going to be together.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, listen, first of all, she's all the way in Nigeria. And that's, you know, first of all, she's dealing with the fact that her mother is the deposed queen of the country. All right. So she's got that going on, but that doesn't mean she can't find me handsome.
My favorite one that I've been getting recently, I don't know if you ever check your spam emails, is it's I'm Muammar Gaddafi's daughter.
Which, by the way, that seems random, but my man fucked. Muammar Gaddafi had like a Bin Laden number of children. Yeah. Like, Bin Laden's like one of his daughters is like a model in the US. And people are like, that's weird.
I didn't know this.
People are like, well, that's weird. It's like, it's not weird when you realize he had like 20 something kids.
Yeah. Oh, so when she's saying my father has a lot of money, she didn't even mention it's gonna be split up amongst so many kids.
I know, dude.
That's BS. You can't trust these women on the internet.
You can't,
say
dude.
that they're Muammar Gaddafi's daughter.
I love that you're giving that advice in earnest. You're like, listen, if a woman says that Muammar Gaddafi is her dad,
yeah,
don't try. Which to me is very funny because it's like, you could have picked a rich guy who's not a dictator. You know what I mean? Like, there's rich people. I mean, listen, blah, blah, blah. New York loves to eat the rich, but there is a moral difference between Mark Zuckerberg and Muammar Gaddafi. Because Muammar Gaddafi isn't trying to get my private information. Okay, so go on. What's the pitch? How is she trying to get money out of you?
Like bank details, but it's also like a little bit romantic. Like, she's like a little bit in love with me. I mean, what would really help sell it is if she'd been like, I'd watch some of your comedy videos and I think you're very funny. I think that would be like,
yeah,
that would mean a lot to me.
Yeah. So we ended up, so those were our 2-car issues, and it was fine. We ended up trading the rental car for another car, drove all the way back to New York because I wasn't going to wait in Chicago for however long it was going to take Hyundai to come up with the...
But you were planning on it for a while, which I thought was pretty absurd. You're like, no matter the amount of time, I live in Chicago with this car now. I need to fall on the sword.
Well, to me, okay, I did consider it because I'm like, it can't possibly take them, I don't know, a month, 2 months. That would be absurd.
But also, like, they wouldn't even look at it for a full week.
Yeah.
Like, actually.
Yeah, it was crazy. And do you know what the diagnosis was?
Oh, yeah. Please tell me.
Signal issue.
It's just a wiring problem.
So the mechanism that tells you that something's wrong with the engine malfunctioned. So nothing was wrong with the engine.
No.
Yeah. And because it's my mom's car, but my dad owns it. So my dad was talking to the guy on the phone.
Yeah.
And he was like, what about the acceleration issue? Because I couldn't, that's how, before the light even started blinking, I knew there was a problem because I couldn't accelerate over 40 miles an hour. So this is what fucking Hyundai does, because they don't want you to ignore the flashing check engine light, because people will ignore even that.
Yeah.
So as a safety measure, they make sure you can't accelerate beyond 40 miles an hour. Dude, it's infuriating. And now my dad, actually, it's getting shipped today. I was talking to my dad on the phone before.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
What a wild twist of events. Because it seemed like, from what everyone was saying, it was an engine failure. It's all going to have to be replaced. But I was like, what a weird... Like, if you don't keep listening to us, we're going to cut the brakes in your car.
Yeah, it has this mafioso, so the light is blinking. I'd be ashamed if you couldn't accelerate over 40 miles an hour. Dude, and to me, it's annoying because, like, I get people ignore the check engine light, but I don't, so it's almost like I'm being punished for my less conscientious brother-in and sister-in, So, yeah, it feels weird. But I love road trips in general. I love driving, and it's so much better when you're with a friend, because I feel like, first of all, you split the driving. Yeah. You have a nice little conversation.
Yeah. You get to learn all about Eminem.
You get to learn all about Eminem, dude. I taught Ben so much. I taught you so much stuff about Eminem that you made a joke about D12 member Bizarre.
Out of desperation.
Yeah, you're like, I have to relate to Bobby in some way.
Sort of like Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, we went to Detroit. It was where we did one of the shows, and so we got to do some things that were very special to you.
Mhm.
Even got the sweater that you're wearing now.
Gilbert's Lodge in where is it in Michigan?
Detroit?
No.
What? Why are you showing me your ass?
What does it say?
Oh, it says St. Clair Shores, Michigan.
Yeah. The back of
That
my
was everything about that was so upsetting. I really don't like the where in Michigan? And then you presented yourself. You made yourself more than available in that moment. That's not even how reading works. Unless the only way for me to read that was for me to be hunched over you in a very inappropriate position.
Yeah, I don't know. I have poor depth perception. That's my defense.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I have pretty poor depth perception, you know? So I thought that you could see my lower back, my tramp stamp.
Your Honor, I have poor depth perception, so you're gonna have to go a little bit deeper. I just can't quite feel it.
For those just listening, I have the name of the town, which I've already forgotten, on the back of the shirt that I bought at the restaurant. And I wanted Ben to read the name of the town. So I turned around.
But he didn't turn around. He fully bent over. His hands were on the ground and his ass was in the air. Right, you're right. I should have clarified for the listeners because they didn't understand that you put yourself in the fuck me position.
Yeah. Well, you know, I am your opener, and those are one of the rules. Ben abides by the rules of the road, if you know what I'm saying. Ass, cash, or grass. And I don't carry money on me, and I don't smoke weed. You know what I mean? But yeah. So we were in Detroit, and I have to clarify, we were going to be in Detroit for the tour.
Yes, we did a show in Detroit.
Ben and I were both doing our little skits in Detroit. So we were already there. Mm-hmm. But I went to two places. And Ben was very nice enough to come with me. And the first one was Gilbert's Lodge, which is a perfectly nice restaurant in Detroit, Michigan. However, they are probably most known for having a former dishwasher / line cook by the name of Marshall Mathers, which is the Christian name of the GOAT rapper Eminem.
And just to clarify, they're not most known for that. Is they're most known to you for that?
They're most known to me for that.
Most of the clientele was retired or middle-aged people just having a very sad meal in a wood cabin.
Mm-hmm. Sad meal in a wood cabin. Yep.
Yeah, with a bunch of like heads and antlers mounted on the wall. Mm-hmm. I don't think they were fans of Eminem. No. I think if you live there and you eat there regularly, you don't know about it. It doesn't mean anything to you. Mm. And also your son probably doesn't call you because he listens to too much Eminem. That's sort of the dynamic.
It is funny. You wouldn't know, like you'd have to be my
psychotic.
Level of, yeah. I was going to say my level of stand, which some would argue is psychotic. But so I know about Gilbert's Lodge. He mentions it a couple times in his songs. It's part of his origin story because they fired him right before Christmas. And that's when he wrote the song Rock Bottom, which ended up being on the Slim Shady LP. But you wouldn't know that by walking. They don't even have his picture anywhere. It's sort of
but when he dies, they will mount his head on the wall. That's the other
like many of the deer that are hung around the wall. Yeah. So I did ask our waitress, I'm like, is it true that Eminem used to work here? And I did know that he used to work there.
Yeah, it was a leading question.
Yeah. And
you're also wearing your Eminem shirt.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and as we were walking into the restaurant and I'm wearing my Eminem shirt, and I sort of have this look about me like, isn't this so exciting? We're going to eat at this restaurant. There were two black people that walked by us and one of them openly laughed at me. I mean, not like to my face to be disrespectful, but he couldn't conceal his amusement of this very white person being excited to go because he must know.
Yeah,
I think he knows. Mm-hmm. If you know situation. So we're in the restaurant and we asked the waitress and she's like, yes. And we know Lynn and Lynn's met Eminem and she'll come over and talk to you. And I'm going to say about 15 to 20 minutes went by. We're getting our food. We're having a nice chat. And I'm like, there's no way this woman actually comes and talks to us. But she came and talked to us, and she seemed excited to
Look
talk
at you
about
not being trusting.
Yeah,
You're like me on the
exactly.
side of the road.
Yeah, well, I guess it's contagious, you know. But yeah, and she talked to us a little bit about what he was like, and I really liked that. That was fun.
Yeah, it made you joyous in a way I'd never really experienced.
Yeah, because I mean,
yeah, she's like, once Eminem came in a couple years ago, and I was the only one to get a photo with him, which I feel like that makes sense that he very rarely comes in, because I feel like, you know, going to the place where you worked when you weren't famous, when you've made it, is like fun once, but if you go there every week, it's just becomes sad.
Yeah,
you're just one of the other old people that eats at Gilbert's Lodge.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I wonder, because I'm such a routine guy.
Yeah.
If I was like rich and famous, if I would like just still go to Chipotle, just to avoid decision fatigue. You know what I mean? To be like, well, this is why I do it now. I'm like, well, I know what I like there. I'm gonna have a nice time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I understand. You don't want your energy sapped. You're such a strong and virile man.
Virile is how most people describe me. So not only did we do that, Ben, but we also went to the field where the house that Eminem used to live in used to stand. And it's most known for being on the cover of the Marshall Mathers LP album. So I thought that was pretty cool. I knew that the house was torn down.
Yeah.
I was lucky to know that, because apparently when Brendan Sagalow went, he didn't know that the house was going to be torn down. So I managed my expectations a little better.
Yeah.
Not to flex on former guests. And we had a nice time. I don't know if you'll imagine this, but we talked about Eminem a lot when he was on.
Oh.
Same thing with Nick Tillelli, dude. When I get a stan, it's all we could talk about. But so you and I in our rental car pull up, and it's just like a working class black neighborhood in Detroit. You know, nothing like you wouldn't know it if you just drove by. There's no like sign.
Yeah, because it's like, it looks like multiple houses have been torn down. Just like a long field, and you're getting your photo taken in one area of the field, and then a nice woman from across the street said, "It's a little bit over."
Yeah, which I thought was so funny.
Yeah,
I'm like, she knows exactly.
Yeah,
we're not. Ben and I didn't have the look of like surveyors.
Yeah, which I don't like the fact that by being with you, people are like, "Oh, he's another sad white boy that loves Eminem."
That's my brand, Ben. Don't you take it?
Yeah. But
because if you take my brand, I'm going to kill you and dump your body in Lake Michigan. What were you saying?
No, you're right. I should be able to effortlessly riff through a death threat. I apologize. I can't just brush it off like you Eminem fans. Yeah, no, I was just saying that it was very necessary to point to the correct spot, because you wouldn't have known the difference. How many dozens of people take a photo in front of the wrong field and they're bragging to their friends, "Look, this is where," and it's not. But you got the true experience of being in front of the Eminem hole.
Yeah. Boy, have I always wanted to be in front of the Eminem hole. But I feel like that's a lot of like we went to Lincoln's house too when we were in Springfield.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of like, because I've been to a lot of presidential homes and things of that nature. And a lot of the tour is them being like, and this is the chair that looked a lot like the chair that Abraham Lincoln would sit in. Because it's like a lot of things just like can't be preserved. So a lot of that is like, well, we're standing in what we believe was the dining room, but we're actually not sure. You know what I mean? So you don't get a lot of like, a lot of that is like, well, this is what it might have looked like, all that stuff.
Yeah. One of the weirder details was that apparently the chairs didn't fit Lincoln, they were saying. So he would turn them upside down and like lean back in the chair on the floor.
Yeah.
But yeah, that seemed a little bit ridiculous.
It's because he was, I believe, 6'4", which is tall now, but back then was like humongous. Like they didn't even think that someone could be that tall, and therefore no one made chairs that fit him. But I kind of like that story, because I do I do know a lot about Lincoln, and that is part of his personality, is that he just rolled with the punches. You know what I mean? Even when he had money, he was like, I'll just sit like backwards on this chair that doesn't fit me. Apparently he didn't
it's like a guy that like got out of prison.
Yeah, exactly.
He's too used to life on the inside.
Yeah, he like Shawshank Redemption. He's like, I can't deal with sitting in a chair that fits me. I need to sit backwards on a small chair.
Last time he was in a chair, he's like, oh, this shit in a chair sucks. I hope someone kills me.
Yeah. And we did see the chair that he was killed in.
Yeah, that's crazy.
When we were in Detroit, we went to the Henry Ford Museum.
Yeah, we did one not Eminem thing in Detroit. We had one brief moment that was like, maybe not just for Bobby. And it turned out it was also for Bobby.
Yeah, because there was a bunch of presidential stuff at the Henry Ford Museum, including the car that JFK was shot in.
Yeah. And the craziest part is they used it for future they just cleaned it off. And we're like, here, hang out in the death car.
It's like, dude, you're the US government. Can you not afford another car? I would feel so weird sitting in there.
Yeah, but maybe they were worried about like, they didn't have like rental insurance.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's actually the first thing the Secret Service agent said. They were like, is this covered? Are they going to try to screw us?
Like, yeah, it's covered in his blood.
Yeah. Well, and when we were at the Henry Ford Museum, we also saw the exact chair that Lincoln was sitting in when he was shot.
Yes.
And there's a stain right where his head would be. Yeah. And the guide told us that the stain is a mixture. All cum. They don't call him the Bukkake president for no reason, you guys. How disrespectful, right? Yeah. But apparently it's not, the stain is a little bit of blood from the incident. But the assassination, but it's also because it's hair gel. And to me, I'm like, were they wearing a lot of hair gel in the 19th century? And then I learned that up until like fucking our lifetime, they would just let people sit in that chair, including like the 60s and 70s, which is a very hair gel heavy era of our country's history. And that's why isn't that crazy though, that they let anyone besides Lincoln sit in that chair? I think that's crazy, dude. Although apparently you could sit in the seat that Rosa Parks sat in. Right?
Yeah.
Which I didn't do.
Yeah, they have the bus that she was on. Yeah, they had a lot of really interesting car history.
And I said this to you while we were looking at the car. It's creepy almost because I'm going to assume everyone listening knows the Rosa Parks story. I know we have some international listeners, but I don't know. The Cliff Notes is that in the 50s during segregation in Alabama, Rosa Parks was a black woman that sat in the front of the bus, and the modus operandi was if you were a white person, you could tell a black person to get out so you could sit in the seat. And Rosa Parks was like, famously, I'm not doing that. And then she was arrested, and that became a rallying cry for MLK. It started the bus boycott, which ended bus segregation.
Yeah.
And ultimately, was instrumental in ending segregation itself in the South. And what's creepy about that is because they have the actual bus in the Henry Ford Museum.
Yeah.
And the bus is like this bright green and yellow.
Yes. And
the sign says, beat the traffic, take the bus. Like it has this cutesy little marketing thing about like, we should take the bus.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know. It sounds stupid to say, like, what was I expecting it to have like flames on it and like smoke all around
Swastikas.
it? Yeah. It's just weird to me that it has this like hokey fucking feel to it.
Yeah.
So it has this very like Disney sort of vibe about it.
Yeah. And famously Disney was not racist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
and the other interesting thing about Rosa Parks, which maybe you know this, but I was sort of interested to learn, is that like she wasn't the first person to do this. There was some other I think it was like 17-year-old woman that did it, and there was like a sort of response to that. But Rosa Parks is actually like part of the civil rights movement, and it was highly planned and orchestrated, which I think just overall gives her more agency. Not like, oh, she was real tired and got fed up one day. It's like, no, this is like planned, very strategic and thoughtful form of protest that it was able to end the bus segregation.
And also this teenage girl was pregnant. So it's kind of fucked up, but they were like, let's find someone more palatable to middle America. No, that's true.
I didn't know about the pregnancy thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Can you imagine
kind of,
like casting for that?
yeah. They're like, okay, and go. No, I will not get up. Next. No, I will not get up. All right. No, line. I will not get up. No, I will not get up. No, I will not get up. No, I will not give up. And then Rosa Parks comes and just nails it. And they're like, you're perfect. Are you pregnant? Yeah. It's so crazy that there's people still alive from a time where you could be like, excuse me, black person, I want to sit in your seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you're related to someone.
That's the thing too, is that there's that famous picture of Rosa Parks getting fingerprinted, and there's a cop standing next to her, and he's in every textbook for all time now. You know what I mean? That's kind of, I don't know. Does anyone know about him?
I don't know the photo that you're referring to.
There's a photo of her getting getting arrested for that, where it's like her and a police officer, and he's like putting the thumb on the ink.
Yeah,
and they both look like the most dispassionate people ever. You know, which kind of makes sense. Like maybe he was just following orders, and and she was like, you know, like you said, it was this orchestrated thing. Yeah. So I almost think like maybe the vibe was like, I'm doing something pretty fucking cool right now, as opposed to like righteous indignation. Although maybe it was that too. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Rosa Parks is looking in the camera like,
yeah. You do think a part of her was like a little excited. She's like, I'm pretty cool. You know what I mean? So yeah, we saw the Rosa Parks bus. We saw the bus that Kennedy was shot in. We saw the car that Kennedy was shot in. We saw the car that Reagan was shot in, which looked exactly the same. You know, which is less exciting because he lived. You know,
so boring.
Yeah, it was a good trip, man. I really, because I've been on 2 tours, and the first one was very exciting, and the second one was exciting. But I'm like, this could potentially be what my life is like. Will I enjoy it? And I did enjoy it. I have to be honest with you. I think depressed would be too strong of a word, but just like back in New York was, you know, back to a routine, or my, you know, what I have of a routine. I'm like, damn, I want to be on the road again, which is interesting because I've heard from comedians, musicians where they dread going on the road. And maybe it's because, you know, once it's not your second tour and it's your 500th tour. I don't know. How do you feel when you know you're going on the road? Is it exciting, or you're like, oh, here we go again?
I think generally I'm excited. Really the only parts of it that I dread are like, because I'm again doing this as cheap as possible. It's like, oh, I have to be up for my 6 a.m. flight. Yeah. Okay, it's like this terrible travel thing, or it's like, you know, some like shitty Airbnb. I think those are the parts that I'm least excited for. Or, you know, I you know, have to be driven around by some guy that doesn't know how to use the accelerator.
I know, dude.
I have to, you know, see some stupid Eminem shit, pretend like I'm excited. No, I very much enjoyed seeing the country, making people laugh, learning, about things. So I was thinking earlier, speaking of racism, you weren't here for this, but while you were featuring at the Comedy Catch, there was probably one of the more wild incidents at a show in Huntsville, Alabama.
So it's you and our mutual comedian friend Jeff, who were I wasn't there. It was you and him.
Yeah, and a local Huntsville host named Jonathan Silver, who's a black guy. It's relevant for the story. Jeff's Jewish.
And you're Jewish.
I am.
And you're in Alabama.
But Huntsville, there's like a NASA center. It's like pretty liberal. I did Huntsville with my old show back in September. Had a lovely time. But so the host is on stage, and he has some joke where about like, you know, Trump losing the election. It's better than, you know, you'd think it'd be, given my shitty explanation. Yeah. Where like everyone laughs, and then someone in the back is like, no, he didn't.
No, Trump didn't lose the election.
Yes. And then later he has some other bit where he references like Obama being a citizen, and she's like, no, he isn't.
Oh, geez.
And so that's like, oh boy, what is this gonna be? And she's there with her husband, and they are like scowling the entire time. And what's weird is like while they are deeply not enjoying the show, is she's also eating like an egg roll or some mozzarella sticks, but like a child, like sort of like dancing the food back and forth and like
what?
Yes, like yeah. This like 50 or 60-year-old woman is like eating this food like a toddler. Yeah, so everything about that was really upsetting. Then then Jeff goes up. He's a gay guy. He's Jewish. He jokes about it. And at a certain point, she walks out and is like on the phone outside. Can't really hear what she's saying. And then someone from the venue comes and like whispers something to her husband. Husband goes outside, and now I'm curious about what's going on. So I talked to the person at the venue. This is Shenanigans in Huntsville, lovely venue, and this is Jessica, the partner of the owner, Kimberly.
Shout out to Jessica, honestly.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Jessica, this one's for you.
Yeah, Jessica's great. Kimberly's great.
Go to Shenanigans in Huntsville if you're around.
Absolutely, would highly recommend. And so, what Jessica was saying is that she was on the phone being like, I am sick of all these racist Black and Jewish comedians. I am sick of the Black and Jew racism that I'm hearing. Like,
Black and Jew racism.
Yeah, and like on and on about it. And you'd think that they would leave, but they actually don't. They actually come back in and then watch at least the beginning of my set. And at a certain point, she yells something out, and I genuinely can't hear. So I'm like, hey, if you're gonna heckle me, like, at least you got to speak up. Like, what are you saying? And then she doesn't say anything. And then they walk out, which everything about that just seems crazy. I mean, not that I don't believe that racist people still exist, but that like, if you were going to a comedy show and like a science themed comedy show, and you can't handle the fact that a Black person and a Jewish person exist and are going to tell you a joke, and you're like, this is too far. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
like,
wild.
Why would you come out?
It is, yeah, because the way that you market the show is I'm a former scientist,
yes,
now comedian. He's going to be science-based jokes. You would think, and it does. Yeah. I do feel like the audience is sometimes like a little more left-leaning, a little more intellectual, so to speak.
Because there's no one has a yard sign that's like, I believe that climate change is real. Science is the truth. Water is our future, and Trump won the election. It's not like...
And you know what's interesting is like, because you know, we were performing in the South. I was doing some shows in Chattanooga. Yeah, it is like not necessarily a right-leaning crowd, but there's going to be more right-wing people than your average show in New York City. And I understand that. So it's not just that she's like MAGA, but that she's like so into it that she can't even handle like a joke about it. You know what I mean?
She can't keep it in without fully yelling out.
Yeah, and it's almost like this. It's almost like an OCD thing, where it's like because I've been at comedy shows before where someone makes a joke that either doesn't align with my political beliefs or is just based on wrong information. Yeah, and it is what it is. Like, I don't immediately go like, "Excuse me, sir."
You storm the stage.
Yeah.
There's been an inaccuracy at a comedy show. I don't know. We cannot proceed.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the delightful things of comedy is you get to hear different perspectives. And even if I don't agree, if someone can make me laugh, like that's like a fun laugh. Yeah. It's like, oh, you still find something funny and something that maybe goes against my morals. Which is what I think during most of your sets.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing more authentic than when someone is laughing against their beliefs. You know what I mean? Because then that's like when someone doesn't want to laugh and then they do laugh. Yeah. Then that's a true like reaction, I guess, you know? Yeah, that's the thing about traveling around is like you meet all sorts of interesting people, different perspectives. That's what I honestly like. One of my favorite things about traveling is just the energy of being somewhere different. You know, where like things are just like a little different.
Yeah.
Like we went to Culver's and I'm like, this is a fast food restaurant, but it's blue. I've never been to a blue fast food restaurant before.
The least interesting thing about Culver's. That's you're obsessed. You're like, the bus was green and yellow.
Yeah.
The Culver's was blue.
Yeah, I'm just a child.
Yeah, this is Bobby's 5-year-old flip book of his Midwest tour. Hey,
And then the
Gilbert's
car went oopsie. We had an oopsie with the car.
The wheels on the bus go no more.
Oh man, yeah, it was a good time, but it is good to be back in New York. But yeah, I did feel like the first day back, I'm like, it's good to be back, and then the second day, you know, I had like spots and whatever, but I'm like, I want to be. You get spoiled, you know what it is, because I was like, I want to be in front of people.
Yeah, you're acting like a real princess right now.
I know,
So spoiled.
yeah. To spoils the war go the victors, but. I don't know. It's like I want to do 20 minutes in front of people that came specifically not to see me, but to see, you know, a show that I'm a part of versus, you know, I'm doing 10 minutes on a showcase and the crowd might be weird.
Yeah.
We kind of lucked out. We had no weird crowds on this tour, I think.
Yeah.
Or the shows that I was a part of, because I know you did some by yourself.
No, the Atlanta show and the Huntsville show was fun. Even, I mean, she left like 5 minutes in, and the rest of the show was a really good time. The Atlanta show was very fun. Yeah. Yeah. We got very lucky that the crowds were a nice time, and that even if they disagreed with our beliefs, they kept it to themselves.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Most of the time,
dude. And when we were in Chicago, I met your mom and dad.
Yeah,
that's right, folks. I've met Ben's parents, so I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious.
I met your parents as well, which that was so funny. I had dinner with your parents the night before we took your mom's car, and your dad made some offhand comment about, you guys don't even know how to change a tire.
Yeah.
And we were laughing like, when are we going to use this? And then it did screw us over.
That happened. Yeah. So what did you think about meeting my parents? Did it all suddenly make sense?
I'm like, oh yeah, with such a tough home life like this, I understood why he turned to Eminem to seek comfort. I understand where Eminem was the only guy who understood suburban upstate New York Bobby's feelings.
With my two very nice parents.
Who love you and support you.
Dude, shout out to Lynn and Tom, honestly. I actually asked my dad to be a guest on this podcast.
Yeah.
And he said he'll think about it.
Your dad's big timing.
Yeah. He's like, first of all, you should have gone through my agent. You know? But I just think that would be fun if you would be on. But my dad loves to do bits. You notice that about him.
Yeah.
And your dad does bits too. Yeah, we're two guys with dads that do bits. So, was there anything that surprised you about my mom and dad?
No.
Yeah?
Should there have been?
Well, did it subvert your expectations a little bit?
It sounds like you're leading me on to say yes.
Well,
why don't you tell me what you want to hear?
To me, I didn't expect your dad to look like Jewish Super Mario. And he did. And I just wasn't expecting that. I sort of, because your mom was exactly what I thought your mom would be like. And I thought your dad was going to sort of be like a version of that too. But he's like a little goofy. Yeah,
my dad is a goofy bald guy with a big old mustache.
Dude, a beautiful white mustache that honestly, I wanted to tug to see if it was real, but I realized that would have been a faux pas if I had done that.
All of your impulses are that of a child.
Yeah, dude. I describe the colors of things when I see them, and if someone has nice facial hair, I want to tug on it. Tug on it to make sure it's real.
Can I sit on your lap?
Yeah. Yeah. But we had a nice time. We got Thai food. We had gelato, which I think is gay ice cream, but I still had a nice time. You know what I mean? It's a little too foo-foo for me. You know?
What?
Gelato. It's like, let's just have ice cream. We don't have to make it European. You know what I mean? This is not a feeling you have at all.
Yeah. It being European makes it, I'm just not sure this weird ice cream homophobia that you have.
Yeah. Well, guys, you're gonna have to listen to Ben Miller Part 4 to really dive into my ice cream. It's not just homophobia, it's also xenophobia, Ben. But yeah, I had a nice time. I got cappuccino gelato, so I felt like I was drinking coffee, even though it was nice time. And you, even though it was nighttime, not nice time, and you had some sort of soupy...
Speaking of nighttime, what's your evening and morning routine?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, this is we didn't talk about that at all. But to be fair, if you want to know about Ben's night and morning routine, you're going to have to listen to part 1. Part 2 is out there. This is the episode, Ben Miller, back for redemption. Friend of the podcast, friend of the show, good friend of mine. Can you drop your socials so that people can follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at This Is Ben Miller. I'm also at benmillercomedy.com. I'm touring the US, UK, Europe. Feel free to see me on the road. Bobby might be opening.
I might be opening as long as I don't step out of line, as Ben likes to say. And guys, thank you for joining us. And remember, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. I'm just playing night owls. You know I love you.
Thank you